Welcome to Pablo Chapa podcast. I have to do this because otherwise Evan gets nervous doing the introduction. Evan, thank you for introducing me to my podcast. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Here is Bridget, our new guest for today.
Hello, Bridget.
Hello.
Hello, darling.
So today,
Nobody said real estate wasn't fun.
that is true. So today we're going to talk about what does it mean to be a real estate developer. What does it mean to be a real estate developer, Pablo?
So you see, just what does it mean? That's it. That's why we need you, Bridget.
My Lord, I understand a little bit more.
Now you get what's going on. So, what does it mean to be a real estate developer? So that's an excellent question, and thank you again for the effort of being in front of the camera. Real estate development has many connotations. This is one of those examples in which what the words mean may be different than when we are in real estate and actually developing land, what we call. So a real estate developer, and I'll be quick to answer the question and then I'll expand, is such a either person or company that is in the business of getting raw land, and by raw I mean that it is in agricultural or no zoning at all in whatever part of the world, and getting all zoning permits, survey, engineering, and legal requirements such that you can now use that land for any given purpose. And period. That's it. That is to develop. Because developing has a connotation of creating and building, we often associate it with a builder, which is a lot more direct in what it means, with a builder, contractor, or a construction company at large scale. It could be true because some builders are also real estate development, but real estate development per se, you do not necessarily go to cut trees. You don't necessarily go out there and start chopping trees and displacing rivers. It's a little bit like when they say that.
So for example, let's say I have a piece of land.
Correct.
And it's 100 acres. What would be the first thing you would do as a real estate developer?
Good. So the first thing is, how close is it to a population, a large population area? So the first thing you do, you zoom out on the map and you figure out where are other developments. And let's first agree on the different types of developments you can do. And again, understanding this is a process before you even start cutting trees and putting foundation and whatnot. You have to decide, what are you going to build? What is the highest and best use for that piece of property? This is a technical term that you should remember, the highest and best use. So the highest and best use may be industrial. And in industrial, you could put a manufacturing plant. You can do whatever. It could be retail, it could be a gas station, it could be a hotel. Often those spaces are even more complicated to break into, and those deals take a very long sales cycle or a very long time to fruition. If I start talking to Quick Trip today about a specific piece of land that I own or manage, they may make a decision in about 2 years.
Okay.
And then after they make a decision, then we need to go through zoning, and then the neighbors will say, oh, we don't want you putting a gasoline tank in this particular corner. And so If I go talk to Costco, there's a project that I was fortunate to be a part of that I've been talking to Costco, or the main partner has been talking to Costco for 5 years. For 2 years they were in, and then a year they were completely out, and then they came back in. So in that length of time, it makes it very difficult to be a real estate developer and put it all together. Once you have all the permits, the second portion, which is building, while it also obviously creates a lot of value, it has risk, of course, but that portion's easy because now there's a lot of people that know how to do that. And the reason being is that there's many companies that they are in the process of just being builders, construction. And those companies have people that's all they do. They take a project, they start it, they finish. And by then, they have people like us, and within their company, they have people talking to people like us that, okay, where's my next project? Here it is, perfect. And then they continue their process. So for the people that are actually on the trenches, building, actually moving dirt around and doing the site preparations and then the foundation and whatnot, they are very shielded from the process that it is the real estate development. And they may often confuse and say, well, that's also developed. We developed that land. It is now developed. And yes, I guess in some parts of the U.S. you could call it.
So what you're saying is that they're developing the dirt, we are developing the property.
No, this is where the confusion of the word develop means a lot of things. You developed into a great adult or a great young man, or this developed to be an awesome play. Development means growth. And in that sense, it is easy to understand development from raw land, agricultural, to finished product with hotels and commercial. But technically, real estate developer, we're here to initiate the process. And it is a lengthy process. You have to talk to a lot of communities. You need to make sure everybody's happy, that the community's needs are met, that you're talking to all the neighbors, that everything that could be thought about for a project has been planned and prepared for. And then you get it through zoning, you put engineers, you put a bunch of people together, and that costs a lot of money and years of effort. And then you go to the actual construction phase. Why is this the case? Because that's actually a good question. Why would that be the case? Why is it not the same person doing the building? Because there's construction companies that's their whole specialty is to build hotels. And then there's within those companies that they only build hotels for Hilton that look like X. And they either do that hotel or the Invest hotel. But they always do the same thing. And they bring the same workers over and over. So that makes the cost be significantly lower. So if in your same development of 200 acres, you're going to have a hotel, a theater, a set of townhomes, and a set of residential single family, it is possible that within the same development, you have different builders working in unison to make sure you have a completed project. That is how you would save cost. So it is still under one real estate developer, and it is still under one planner, but then these projects will be done technically by completely different people. Yes.
So to get back to my question about the 100 acres.
My 100 acres.
I have
Sound like Winnie Pooh. The 100 acre. What was it?
100 acres in the woods.
100
That's-
acres in the woods. So
100 acre
No,
forest.
the 100 acre
Or wood forest.
wood forest or something.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'll test it. Okay, Winnie Pooh.
So if I have 100 acres
Mm-hmm.
and I'm willing to sell to you, the developer, and you've done comps and you have a general idea of what other houses in the area are going for, what would be the process?
Okay, yeah. So which was it to your
Wanna
original
sell,
question?
you want to buy. How do we do it? How do we do this transaction?
So the transaction will go somewhere along these lines, and I started answering that question, then we expanded. You try to see what you can use this 100 acres for. The easiest is to think, well, we're going to build houses. We're going to do either single family or townhomes or whatnot. Are there others around the area that are doing the same? Is the town having enough growth that you will be able to do this? So the process is you determine by comps what is the property worth raw, meaning trees and all, and most important, with no zoning. And that property as such has X value, which is high because you're talking a lot of acreage, but still low. And there's a reason why it's low. And the reason why it's low is because the property is worth what you can do with it. And if for some reason you get to buy it and then you can't do anything with it, it was a terrible investment. All real estate developers and all builders that are into this space, they will put a contract that you can phrase it in many ways contractually, but basically what it's going to say is we have the property under contract, and that allows me X many months to get the correct zoning, and until I do, I cannot close because otherwise I cannot extract value from this property. Nobody is in the business of gambling, and the process of real estate development is very expensive. On 100 acres, it could cost $250,000, $300,000, and that's before you start cutting any trees. Once you start cutting trees, obviously, roads and stormwater, sewer, electrical, phone, all the utilities, and grading and stuff. Of course, it is expensive. But before you do anything, you need to understand that it is a long process. Now, if somebody is like, no, but I want to sell my company, like I want to sell the land now, then whatever you're thinking your land is worth, you will get a quarter. If you need to sell it now, it doesn't matter if it's your valuation or mine. Whatever you think it is, it's a quarter. Because you can't extract any value. There's just no value. But if we allow this process to happen, then you pay whatever the land is worth. Yes, you have a question?
Sorry, you said a quarter, and I'm a layman person very new to this. Why? That's just arbitrary.
Well, no, it's because you take a big risk. Going back to the 100-acre forest that we were talking about. So let's say arbitrarily that's in a good part of town, so it's worth is worth $1 million. 100 acres, $1 million. It's like, okay, but it's worth $1 million if you allow me to go through this process of getting it zoned, making sure that the community is going to approve whatever it is my project. I may decide to do a senior living facility. I may decide to do a small shopping center, a hotel, gas station. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, if I don't have the approval from the community,
Yep.
and that process takes 6 months, a year, sometimes a year and a half. And there's a specific project we're working on. We're working on for 2 years. If I don't do that, the property is worth nothing. And in this case, if you thought it was worth $1 million, or that's the agreed price,
It's less.
it would be, you wouldn't pay more than $250,000. That's just what it is. So by the owner of the property, or farmer, whatever, being patient with the developer saying, yeah, we'll work together. Let's do this. Let's make this happen. Then they are able to extract the maximum value that this property is worth.
So what you're saying is that this type of transaction is very different from a residential transaction.
100, yes, absolutely.
With a house,
Yeah.
where you're like, hey, I'm going to go buy a house. I'll go talk to a real estate agent and see what they got, and then they'll take 6% off the top. And then before you know it, in like a month month and a half, 2 months, you bought a house.
That's not what happens at all. I agreed. So, and there's so many things I want to say, but I'll leave it. I'll make it as short as possible. The person that owns the 100 acres, chances are they bought it on a sale. The market was low. Somebody really wanted to sell. Same 100 acres, $1 million. They probably bought it for $300,000, $250,000. But now they've heard, oh, but so-and-so sold it very expensively. Oh, but I think I made a great deal. No, you didn't. The price is $300 or $250. And because the guy needed to sell, he put it in the market for whatever he could. Because that is the actual true value, because it has no value. There's no zoning, no permits. There's no sewer going to the property. And putting sewer into a property might cost $2 million. Well, then is your property worth $1 million? No, it's not. Like, it's worth whatever it is, nothing. Almost tax value, if you will. Whatever it is, the tax value that's decided by the city, that's probably what it's worth. But by working with the real estate developer, then, and waiting this curing period, then you're able, as an owner, to extract maximum value and being able to sell it for what it's worth. But if suddenly you're midway through the process, like, I don't care, I need my money now, even a quarter, you might not get paid. Like, because land doesn't sell very fast. It's not very liquid. So that would be the answer to that. And then I'm trying
to kind of like rephrase what you're saying is that you can almost think of like zoning as potential value in a property. So for example, if you have a piece of land, let's say 1 acre, and you want to build a house, you're not going to sell the land for the price of the land and the house.
Correct. That's exactly right.
You're going to pay basically for the price of the land. Now you put it under contract, so then you could possibly get the value of what it would be cost with the land and the house.
Correct.
Conceptually.
Correct. That is very accurate. That's exactly what's going on. So I will also add this. You mentioned how it's different from a traditional real estate transaction for houses. Sometimes we use similar terms, and that confuses a first-time landowner when they're about to sell, or a first-time land buyer. But the reality is, because there are many things you could do to that piece of land, then you would not zone it to anything other than agricultural unless you have a client ready to buy. So if you would say, you know what, I'm a landowner, I'm going to get ahead of the curve and then try to get it zoned for whatever so I could get maximum value. Well, no, if you zone it for that, now you start paying taxes for that. And then it becomes very expensive because you have this land that now has all this potential value, and the county will want to extract value from you. So you would have to start paying taxes as if all these houses were already built on your land. So you don't want to do that. And neither does a developer that is not ready to build. So that's why you have this curing period in which you need to get the correct zoning and planning in place, which is what we call real estate development.
What is the mentality of someone who owns land as an investment?
Can you say it louder?
Sure. What is the mentality of someone who owns land as an investment?
Okay, so the mentality of somebody that owns land as an investment. So in the past podcast, we were talking about long-term strategies and short-term strategies. That is definitely a long-term strategy play. If you have the money to buy land and you're able to find a couple of good deals and you don't mind sitting on your land for at least 15, 20 years, then it will slowly acquire value for two reasons. One, the city will, or the town will eventually grow into your land all around it. And the more you wait, when you're ready to sell, you created more opportunities to what to do with your land. Most of the people that we talk to that are investors in our fund that have land or we manage land for them, they're in their, I mean, the youngest one is their 60s or end of 60s, 80s and 90s, very common. And the reason being, they were in their 30s, they had a great job, for whatever reason, say, let me buy this land, let me buy this. And it was like a little bit playing Monopoly. And over the years, they've acquired a huge amount of acreage. And now they're saying, well, I want to cash in. And chances are nothing has happened to that land in 20 years and 30 years. It's just been a vacant lot. And people calling them saying, nah, I don't want to sell. And so the mentality is very much long term. And even on that long term, it is difficult for them because now they've had it for so long, they don't want to part with this. This is their baby, they have it forever. Do you ever visit your land? No. What do you do with it? Nothing. But it's my baby, I don't want to sell it. So it happens all the time. The mentality is long-term strategy. And it works if you know what you are doing. Correct.
What you're doing and willing to be patient.
Correct. But in most cases, that's what it is. Now, there are land developers or real estate developers that they made their fortunes long ago and then they become land owners because they are in their mind protecting their own investment of their building company or construction company, and they want to keep their own pipeline of deals. So they may own, I don't know,
A couple thousand acres
here and there, so they could, like, if something happens, I can still be building because I already got my land. So that is also true.
There are a lot of downsides to owning land. For example, you have to maintain taxes on the property.
Correct.
You have to.
You can't depreciate it.
You can't depreciate it.
You cannot depreciate it like a house. If it's a house, then you have a lot of incentives to buy it, put it on a mortgage, start the depreciation process. That takes taxes out of, like, instead of the government pocket into your pocket. You can't do that with land. There's no depreciation value.
There's also a classic saying in land where it's land rich, cash poor. We have
Yes.
these guys that have all this land and yet they can barely afford food and barely afford.
It is sad, but it happens. Yes, you have a lot of farmers that long ago, their grandparents or parents, they bought humongous amount of acreage, and now they don't have enough money just to pay the taxes on all that land. And it doesn't happen only to small-time farmers. If you think about the Vanderbilt property in Asheville in the Carolinas,
Yep.
it used to be huge. If you studied the land, just the land of what happened to that property, it was huge. And then it's one generation, 2 generations, and because taxes are starting to grow, even if it's agricultural, now you have this issue, well, we have to pay taxes. And we're not making as much money as we did because whatever the reason. So now they need to cut it and cut it and cut it. So when you start with their original land tract, which was huge, it's huge. I like, we're not going to make a case study about it, but it was huge. Now it's decreased to a point where it's only the Vanderbilt house, the mansion, the touristic attractions, and a few vineyards and whatnot. It's still a lot of land, but not as much as it was. And the taxes on it, like, keep increasing because the government want their taxes. No land is ever yours unless you figure out a way that it will pay for its own taxes. Not your house, not land, not anything. If you don't figure out a way in which
you can monetize.
You can monetize something.
Right.
And then taxes are paid, then it is a fallacy to think, oh, I'm going to leave this house to my children. How are they going to pay the taxes? Like, it's just, sometimes it's ridiculously impossible to pay taxes on a good property. taxes here are around $30,000 a house in Buckhead area. Just the taxes. So even if you own it free and clear, well, you need to allot that amount. If you leave it to your kids, well, they need to figure out how to get an extra 30 every year. Lord. You're doing a lot better today.
Thanks.
Like, it's because it's the Bridget factor.
It's the Bridget factor.
Yes.
Lots of help.
When did we
We're
start?
almost done.
Oh, we're almost 25 in?
25 minutes.
There you go.
25 minutes.
Tell me, what else do you want to know about real estate development in terms of what it is?
I want to know about the risks associated with developing.
Shit, that's a great question. So often, so it's a good business, but it's a business that takes long. And often people say, damn, you make good money on that piece. It's like, yeah, dude, but out of every 5 properties that you invest $250,000 on each, 1 will go to hell and you won't make money. And you just lost $250,000. So you can only lose enough $250,000 before it becomes $1 million. So it's not easy to make it happen, and you need to please a lot of communities and people, and so it's a risky business. We try to mitigate the risk as much as we can with knowledge, with information, with the right network, and with the right team, of course. But it is not a slam dunk. If you're looking at a project, any given project, the chances of that project coming to fruition are 4 in 5. That's 80%.
8%.
Quick maths.
Well, 80%.
Yeah. Fine. 20% failure rate.
20% failure rate is about correct. Yes. So it's interesting. It's good that you mentioned that question, because one of the things I told you in the beginning podcast was we're just trying to explain to people a little bit of what we do. And obviously, if this message is helpful to anyone, that's great. But in general, real estate, unless you're working with your hands a lot, it is not a get-rich scheme. I don't care how you slice it. You need to put a lot of effort if you want to put real estate into a short-term wealth creation strategy. Then you need to be moving a lot of paper, doing a lot of wholesaling, doing a lot of fix and flips, making sure your fix and flips are under budget. It's a lot of stress. And if you go to long-term strategies of just buying and holding land, or I own 300 apartments, okay, well, but that's not get rich quick. That's just parking your wealth and then riding on it, and that's fine. But there's just like every other method, this is not, oh, you're gonna get rich so quickly. Like, no, it takes time.
So basically what you're saying is that most of these transactions are big because of the risk and the amount of money that you put up.
Correct, and also has a long sales cycle. So it may take sometimes 2 years, right?
And only because of that, then you can justify the amount of risk that you're taking.
Correct. Agreed. Yeah, it is commensurate with the amount of time involved.
I'm trying to think of another question.
I think we've done good. We're right at the 25-minute mark. Were there any questions that you remember from the LAD podcast that you wanted me to include on the video? And if not, it's fine.
No, I don't think so. Not with this.
Good. I think this is good. This is great information for people.
Mm-hmm.
It will, because somehow now we can point them to this particular podcast as this is what we do. So that's great. I like it.
Well, this is Pablo Chapa's podcast, and this is episode number 3.
Yay! And hopefully We didn't have any technical malfunction this time. Bridget, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being with us. And Evan, thank you for your questions. You did so good. I'm so happy.
So much Pablo.
Of course. And thanks everyone. And
See
we
you
have
next time.
we have one comment. Keep them coming.